Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
The birth of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam is a very important day. Let's go through his life and see. Who is he? What is he? What is his status? First, AH comes along. Brotherhood is made. Second AH, you find the wedding. Amir al-Mu'mineen with Hazrat Zahra. Third AH, Imam Hussain alayhi salam comes into the world. In fourth AH, after being pregnant for 6 months, the day is a Thursday, the month is Sha'ban, a baby comes into the world. And that baby is Imam Hussain alayhi salam. The Prophet of God then takes this baby, after it's been wrapped around in white cloth. In the tradition it says that Imam Hussain alayhi salam is not suckling from anyone. He's not taking milk from anyone. At this moment the Prophet of God offers his tongue, and in the tradition it says 40 days Imam Hussain sucks from the tongue of the Prophet. The nutrition that's filled is from the tongue of the Prophet. Those spiritual vibes are being given to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. That is Sayyid al-Shuhada. One day the Prophet is sitting on the minbar. Imam Hussain walks in. What does the Prophet of God do? He stops everything. He goes, he picks up this child and brings him on the minbar. As he begins to grow, the Prophet of God gives him respect. In the same way you have that other tradition that says that the Prophet of God is in sajda. And as he's in sajda, what do you find? Imam Hussain comes, sits on his back. 70 times he recites the dhikr. And then after that he gets up. That's Imam Hussain. In another tradition it says, and again this tradition goes back to Shaykh Sadduq, and again this tradition is sahih. It says in this tradition, one day the Prophet of God is standing there, and as he stands there, he says, Allahu Akbar. A child comes running, a child stands there. The child also says, Allahu Akbar. But the child is only 4 years old, 3 years old. He can't say it properly. He stammers. Again the Prophet recites, and again this child says, and again the same difficulty happens. 6 times, on the 7th time he says Allahu Akbar. The child then says it properly. Jibreel comes down. He says those 6 takbirs before have become sunnah, have become mustahab for everyone, that before they pray, 6 times they do takbir, and then the 7th one that they enter into the prayers. That's Sayyid al-Shuhada. Why? Because the hujab are 7. Because the veils are 7. In the same way we have a tradition that says that if you're to prostrate on that turba of Karbala, it says that it breaks 7 layers of the hijabs, because the veils are 7. It breaks 7 of those layers. At the beginning of the prayers, you start off with the sunnah of Sayyid al-Shuhada, and when you go into the sajda, you go into the sunnah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. That's the reality of this Imam alayhi salam. As he's growing up though, one hadith fascinated me. In the tradition it says that one day Imam Hussain is sitting there, and as Imam Hussain alayhi salam walks in, it says that Imam Hussain's entire state changes, and he stands up as if Imam Hussain was older. And he takes him and he brings him and he sits him down and he sits down again. And the way that he sits down is as if Imam Hussain is older. So somebody asks him, they say to him, aren't you the older brother? Why is there so much respect that you have for this brother of yours? He's 6 months younger than you, or 6.5 months younger than you. And at the same time you are the Imam of the time. What is it about this Hussain that makes you respect him so much? You know what he replies? He says that the haiba of my father Ali ibn Abi Talib is found within this brother of mine. Today when you talk about Abul Fadl Abbas is the copy of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but the haiba of the Imam is found within Imam Hussain alayhi salam. When we look at the warith of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we go to Abul Fadl Abbas. No, the first warith is Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Hassan as Ma'asum Imam is saying that I stand up out of the haiba of Imam Hussain because he reflects the haiba of my father. That's the power of Imam Hussain. You bring together the love of the Prophet and his family and the idea of service to all of humanity. It's not restricted to just Muslims. Look at Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. Whether there was Jew or Christian, even if it was polytheist, you found Imam Hussain alayhi salam standing there in the front line when it came to his akhlaq. Imam is praying 2 units of prayers. This Medina, a Bedouin comes in, and as he walks in, he asks the people, who's the most giving of all of you people living in Medina? Somebody replies, they say, Hussain ibn Ali is the most giving. This man stands there, he doesn't know who Imam Hussain is. He's come from far away, he's a Bedouin, but he says, oh Hussain, I've heard that you are the most giving of all people. And he begins to pray Sayyid al-Shuhada. And as he finishes his prayer, that person is standing on his door. He knocks on the door. Sayyid al-Shuhada says to Kambar, he says, Kambar, go and see who's at the door. Kambar opens the door. And this Bedouin again starts praising Imam Hussain alayhi salam, saying, look how giving you are. Your father was Ali. Your grandfather was the Prophet Muhammad. Your mother is Zahra. One by one he begins to praise. And what does Sayyid al-Shuhada do? He takes off his abba. He says, Qambar, how much money do we have here? Qambar replies, 4,000 dinars. Gold. He says, take all of that and give it to this person who's come to my door to ask today. Person comes, takes off his abba, Qambar, puts all the gold there, gives it to Sayyid al-Shuhada. Sayyid al-Shuhada comes out with tears in his eyes, shaking. He gives the person the gold from behind the door. This person receives it, he begins to cry. Sayyid al-Shuhada says, please forgive me, if I had any more I would have given it to you. The person replies, he says, it's not that I cry for. I cry for the fact that how can this hand that's given me all of this wealth ever be buried, ever dirt be put on his face? That's the reality of Sayyid al-Shuhada. That is Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Somebody comes up to the fourth Imam alayhi salam and he says that when your father fell onto the ground and after his entire body was covered with cuts and bruises and arrows and blood, says that on the back of his shoulders there was a mark there. That mark was the same mark as Ali. He says, what is this mark? What is it? He says that my father at night time when everybody used to sleep used to carry bags, sacks, and used to go all over to widowers, to orphans, and used to distribute this. You ask from Imam Hussain. If Imam Hussain in this world carries this for the sake of those people who need it, are we not all needy? Are we not all fuqara billah in front of Allah? Are we not slaves for the sake of Imam Hussain? Don't ever underestimate Imam Hussain. If a Hindu can take from Imam Hussain, who doesn't believe in Imam Hussain like we do, and Jews take from Imam Hussain, and in the same way of all religions take, why don't we ask Imam Hussain, for the sake of your mother Zahra, why don't we ask? All of your problem, bring it to your mind and ask. Sayyid al-Shuhada, you used to go every single night. Your back was damaged, but you gave things to people whenever they needed it. Whoever they were, when they came to your doorstep, they didn't go to any other doorstep. You gave them so much in one go that not only them but their generations fed off that. 4,000 dinars is not something small that Imam Hussain alayhi salam gave. That's Hussain. Imam Zain al-Abidin says, my father's taqwa and zuhud was such that he used to pray 1,000 units of prayers at night time. It isn't just reserved for Amir al-Mu'mineen. We find in narration even Sayyid al-Shuhada was like that. Look at the power of this man. Look at who this man is. Look at the falail of this man. When it came to God, when it came to ishq, you look at Karbala, the entire ground is a ground of ishq. And when it came to giving, he gave everything that he had for the sake of Islam and the people. That Hussain who gave his 6-month-old baby to his 21-year-old son. That Hussain who gave everything that he had. And when it came to forgiving, even his killers he was willing to forgive, like Khur, when he forgave him and he said to him, come and join me. Everything you have, forgiveness you have. According to the tradition it says, when you go in front of Allah, ask Allah for forgiveness, and then take a wasila. Who is our wasila today? Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. To ask, stand in front of your Creator day. Say to Allah, Allah, we've come to your doorstep. We have nothing but your servant. But look at that dua of Imam Zain al-Abidin when he addresses his Creator. You know what he says? He says, Ilahi, kayfa du'uka wa ana. Allah, how do I ask from you? How? How do I ask? When I'm me, sinner, person who's committed so many sins, wronged so many people. But Allah, I finally realized that everything is within your hands. I've come back to you, Allah, forgive me. Allah, I have nothing. You know who I have though? I have one wasila, and that is that person who sacrificed everything that he had in your way. وَكَيْفَ أَقْطُعُ الرَّجَاءِ مِنْكَ وَأَنْتَ أَنْتَ. But Allah, how can I cut off my hopes and my ties from you? If I'm me, then you're you. That's Allah. If I'm me. If I'm a sinner, you're all giving. You've given to everyone. Now give to me. Who knows if we're going to be here next week? So many people have gone before us. Maybe Allah will open up the heavens as He does, out of the grace of Sayyid al-Shuhada, out of His lutf. If you are here today, it's because Allah has invited you. So now ask for that person who's giving. Look at that tradition and see. A monk comes in to Masjid al-Nabawi. The Prophet of God is sitting there. The monk says, you are meant to be the Prophet of Akhirul Zaman, end of time. He says, I'm a Christian. I've heard you give people. He says, yes. He says, I don't have any children. He says, give me children. He says, it's not within your nasib. He says, but I've heard that you have power, give me children. He says, why don't you go and ask that 4-year-old boy standing in the corner? If he gives it to you, he gives it to you. Monk, knowing the reality, goes up to this 4-year-old child. With all of the haiba of imama, he stands up. 4-year-old child. He says, what do you want? He says, I want a son. He replies, he says, I've given you 1 son. He looks at him again, he says, I've given you 2 sons. He looks at him again and says, I've given you 3 sons. He looks again, 4, 5, 6, 7. A boy voice comes from the back. It says, you've come to Sayyidu Shuhada. If you don't leave, he's not going to stop. You better leave yourself and go. Imagine now when you go to the Zari of Sayyidu Shuhada, when you stand there, no one think that's the person who gives. He doesn't turn his back away to anyone. When you are standing there, know that his bounties don't stop.